I look over and Corey Taylor is standing there telling his kid that he needs to eat his vegetables.
Yeah.
I'm like, what
Right.
world am I in right now? Like, this can't be happening. And Tom Araya is sitting there in the cafeteria just eating, and I'm like, where I was making lattes for people like 3 days ago. Like, this is stupid.
Yeah. Welcome to the Brutality podcast. My name is Dom, and I just have a few things to shout out before diving into today's episode. First, I wanted to mention that we have a Discord server. If you want to stay up to date with everything podcast related, that is the place to be. But also, if you want to be a part of a community of like-minded people who are looking to just talk about and discover deathcore, whether that be old or new, all that happens over in the Discord server. Also, if you want to help support the show, we now have a Patreon. Some of the perks include early access to episodes, your name in the credits, being the first to know about our upcoming guests, member-only channels in our Discord, and so much more. All of that on Patreon. Also, we have some merch. We have 2 t-shirt designs that we are very excited about. You can go and find those over at indiemerchstore.com. And last but not least, we do these podcast recordings live on Twitch every single Wednesday at 6 p.m. EST. So if you want to be a part of the conversation, if you want to see the unfiltered, unedited versions of these episodes, that is where we do it. So links to all of that down in the description wherever you are watching or listening. That's all I have to plug. Thank you for listening and enjoy this episode. Evan, my man, welcome to the show. How are you doing, man?
Greetings. Doing good. How about you?
We're doing awesome. I mean, really excited about that. And I'm not just saying that as someone who was following, IDW and for years, and even I fully remember on Tumblr asking questions and stuff like that. It's truly an honor. Seriously, that's our favorite thing, to go back in time to see how things starts and what was the actual context. We're big nerds here. Like, honestly, like, we love there's nothing to us boring about anything of that. So to have someone with such huge, that we consider have a lot of huge accomplishment,
Yeah, sure.
did a lot in the scene, it's an honor, truly.
That really means a lot. That's kind of why I started out doing all this stuff in the first place, and doing the Deathcore Memoir page on Instagram, and it was just kind of like, you you have this huge community, and there's just so much that yeah, I don't know, that means a lot.
No, but it's cool, and it's been so cool for us to kind of not to give us flowers or anything, but to give proper credit and just shine lights on people that maybe a lot, that maybe the more involved people know, but people from the outside or newer people, maybe they don't know that stuff. So for us, it's been cool to see how surprised people are of how much people care, because trust me, people do care a lot. Like, we've seen stories and behind the scenes and people talking about it. Like, it's not, I'm saying that we're nerds, but like, honestly, with our community, we're noticing that we're far from being alone, who really loves that stuff. So
Absolutely.
it's gonna be fun. Actually, what I'm trying to say for since the beginning is basically we're all super excited, and it's gonna be fun for sure.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course, man.
Most welcome.
I want to talk about Deathcore Memoir, but real quick, I want to kind of pick your brain, if you don't mind, if it's not too personal. But you started like a new job, and I've been seeing all these crazy fucking guitars on your feed. What the hell is going on here? Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah. So back in I think September, I interviewed for this job, and then I didn't hear anything from them for a long time, a few months. And then out of nowhere, they reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in starting with them, and immediately said yes. And so it's a kind of boutique kind of high-end guitar shop in Renton, Washington. And it's run by Parker Lundgren. He used to play in Queensryche. And it's just a lot of vintage and weird guitars, kind of guitars. He likes to get stuff that has a story behind it that isn't just like, another production run of the mill, whatever. So we get a lot of weird, different stuff coming through there. And my job is basically to photograph the guitars, vet them as they come in and, say what condition they're in. And then, yeah, put the listing up online. So every day I'm handling random different guitars.
Yeah.
The other day we had a $28,000 PRS. We've had this crazy, and it's funny because it's called Diablo guitars, but we've had a lot of acoustics in lately. And one of them was this one called the Good Shepherd, and it had a inlay on the back of abalone and mother of pearl and all these different things of Jesus herding sheep, and there are actual diamonds in the halo around his head. And so yeah, we see a lot of weird stuff, but it's a lot of fun.
It does sound like the coolest job I've ever heard in my entire life, to be honest with you. Like, it's just...
Well, the funniest part is that the showroom is in Renton, which is about it's about a 20-minute drive, and the spot that I work is less than a mile from where I live. So I walk to work every day, and yeah, I walk to work and take pictures of guitars and research them. So it's pretty cool.
Is it people kind of bringing guitars in, or are you guys seeking out these weird guitars? Like, how does that work?
It's a little bit of both. We do some like consignment stuff, but there's also like, lots of guitar shows around the country. We just had the Dallas Guitar Show, which is one of the biggest ones in the country. We had a huge haul from that. We had a big consignment from this woman in Florida. Her husband passed away, and he had all this crazy studio gear, and that's where all those weird PRS dragons came from. For some reason, this guy had like 13 PRS dragons that are all like $15,000 to $20,000 guitars.
All right.
Don't know why, but
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of thinking that, I guess, like some stuff that's like inheritance or just, I don't know, maybe what's the word when people owe money, like when they get repoed or whatever. Maybe there's some of that.
No, not so much that side of things, but yeah, we get a lot of people selling stuff to us, and then we'll see a lot of the same guitars come through that we've actually had before.
Oh shit! Okay,
so yeah, kind of make the rounds.
Yeah. Shit! Here we go again.
Yeah. He can say, just pull up the listing. It's there. You don't have to do any work.
You just
on
relist it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It sold for a certain price once, so you got some track record for it at least.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny, be cool. Man. Also for you, I'm guessing just talking about stuff, right? With all the experience you have and stuff, I'm guessing it probably happens that you start these big conversation about, experience and stuff, like people walking in, they're probably have a passion as well. So does that happen a lot? Like big conversation that leads to these things, or?
Well, not, so the showroom that's in Renton is appointment only. So you have to know someone to get into it. And the place that I work at is just the warehouse, and so it's pretty much all just the guitars, and the luthiers do the setups and stuff on them when they come in, and we have the photo studio there.
Yeah.
So conversation's still happening, but between you guys, basically.
Yeah, because we're all metalheads, and we play. Like the first day I was in, the luthier that works next to me is wearing a cattle decapitation hoodie, and we're listening to Whitechapel, and it's like, all right, I think I fit in.
Yeah. Is that even a job? It's
like, you're giving me money? What?
Am I the one paying for it? Do I owe something? It's cool, man. It's really cool, for real.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, dude, yeah, man. So let's kind of shift into the Deathcore Memoir stuff, because I think this will kind of give a little bit of context for a lot of stuff that we might talk about after that, in regards to the work that you've done. So can you kind of bring us through maybe how that project started, uh, and kind of, how that idea kind of sparked, and what the thought process was originally, and maybe kind of because it had a few iterations, right? You kind of
Hmm.
changed the format a bit throughout the years as well. So can
Yeah.
you kind of give us a rundown about all that?
Yeah, so I was in graphic design school and I wanted to do something that was like that was active and kind of focused on music outside of school. And so I was thinking about doing this project where I would post, it was kind of following the format of Return to the Pit on Instagram, where
Yeah,
he
yeah.
does his daily flashbacks. And I was thinking, like, I have so many photos, and like, I didn't go anywhere without my camera at the time. And so I bet I would be able to do this daily flashback type of thing. And that got me thinking about, oh, well, what, where was I on X day, you know? And so I figured out through all the flyers and stuff that I had, what every day where we were playing. And so I had this kind of combination of a schedule and all these photos that were attached to them, just kind of,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, unintentionally. And so it became this kind of thing where I could look back on what was I doing on this day, 10 years ago or whatever.
Well, and then to tack onto that, not just one day, it's kind of like multiple years of that same day, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. And there'd be droughts where, it'd be like a month where there'd be no touring at all, or there'd be a
Yeah.
single random local show, and nothing else. And then, the summer months would definitely be a much heavier because we'd be touring and, but then, winter comes again and there's a lot fewer
Yeah.
shows. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it was kind of a weird look back at where I was when.
And then you kind of, we were talking before, off stream before starting this, kind of, I guess the nature that kind of allows this was also the fact that you were keeping all of these photos. Like you mentioned bringing a camera around with you, but
Mhm.
there's also like photos from shows that other people took, and then all the flyers. But
Yeah.
most people don't have that stuff, right? But you've
Hmm.
always kind of just held on to all these things to the point of being able to, now you can put it to some sort of use, but it's like for years it was just, I guess, dormant on a hard drive.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of felt like there was a story to tell with it. And so I kind of, yeah, I wanted to bring it out and kind of put it in the light of day. And um yeah, it's just kind of a weird combination of me sort of being a data hoarder and just sort of also being the kind of manager of the band and just kind of having all that stuff as a necessity in the first place.
Hmm.
So I just kind of, I just kept old hard drives and kind of compiled them into one thing at some point. But yeah, I just kind of had lists and dates and flyers and photos, and everything just kind of fell into place when you knew where to look.
Yeah, yeah. How was the process of sorting everything though? Like, because there's like so much stuff, right? And then to
Yeah.
find what was on what day, like you've got a photo, you kind of looking at metadata, like, or you try to
Exactly. Yeah.
remember. Oh, I think that was at this venue that I have a flyer for. It's
Hmm.
like it must have been
Yeah,
a
totally.
fucking
I have a few Google Sheets where I, put in the date and the venue and um, yeah, links to the different flyers and photos. And I mean, there's tons more photos that I haven't posted, but yeah, it was a lot of cross referencing and um, just lining up a lot of data in weird places, like you said, the metadata, and being like, was this on the 7th? I'm pretty sure that was on the 8th, and figuring that out along the way.
I
It's cool
saw.
though.
Okay.
Did that trigger kind of, either people you were touring with or people you met or whatever, like kind of sending messages or commenting like I was there actually at this one. Did you get a lot of these things with the project?
That was my biggest hope with it, was to kind of reconnect with people that I hadn't spoken with in a long time, and to, I I didn't really have this idea that it would be be something that like people that I didn't know would follow. But it just kind of became, you know, it didn't gather a ton of followers, but um, it was mainly for me to like tag my tag people and be like, hey, remember this day? Hey, you were here doing this too. And kind of like I said earlier, there's this huge community. And I wanted to reconnect with that and reconnect with the people that I hadn't seen since we played that one show together that one time,
Yeah.
and so it was just kind of something to take my mind off of school in the first part, and just do something for myself. And then at that point, I called it IDW Museum because it was just based on the shows and the photos that I had from when I was in I Declare War. I hadn't added in all the Whitechapel stuff yet. So then once that concluded, I kind of I was thinking about it like I wonder how, if there were days where I was playing a local show and on the same day I'm with Whitechapel in Germany or something. I wanted to see how those things lined up, and so I added those dates back in to see how everything would correspond. And yeah, there were some interesting coincidences. The biggest being that we actually met Whitechapel on our very first tour. We met them at the one of the worst shows we ever played in Arizona, and we just happened to be put on their touring bill. And so we met them on July 10th, and the first day that I started working for them on the Mayhem tour was July 10th. And so seeing the way those things cross over is really cool.
It's so cool how sometimes like how weird the universe and how things align like that. Like what are the odds type thing. Like
I love those kind of things. So I was always constantly looking for that type of stuff.
You're trying to find the hidden messages and the dates.
Right.
You got string on your wall, connecting the dots.
Yeah, but it's cool because like I don't want to move us too much ahead, but like I'm guessing you guys have a lot of full circle moments because I fully remember like there was a hype fairly early on, but then there was this boom with what I mean, like with Misery Cloud and all this. Like it's like you saw the evolution of that, so and you were there basically for the whole. For that whole thing. Sure. So I'm guessing through that there was probably a lot of maybe opening for a band and then you come back and you're maybe you're higher on the bill or stuff like that. Exactly. I'm guessing a lot of that thing happened, right? Through the years.
Yeah. And I love seeing those kinds of things and seeing how or just a day apart we were at the same venue, weird things that don't exactly align but are close. And so I think I found that stuff more interesting than looking through the photos because I had already seen the photos a million times, and that was just my life, and I was just posting them to add to it. But I got more enjoyment out of the little weird coincidences and stuff.
Yeah. For me personally, like seeing some of two things, like the old flyers from like any of those old flyers from you guys starting out, like the local show stuff, or like the you talk about some of them. It's like your first Photoshop flyers, your first attempts at doing flyers, but then you see all these other, especially for like back in the day, like it really brought me back sometimes to like the kind of flyers that were being done. Like those don't exist anymore because we're like in another, it's just I guess easier now to make at least something that looks kind of legit, even if you don't have much knowledge. Now, So it's crazy to see some of the flyers with like these sketchy logos and like
or sometimes
kind of
no
bitmappy,
logo.
right. Just the bad names,
like kind of there's a skull and then there's like 4 names and like a regular font and There you go. That was the flyer. Sometimes I was just like, what? Like really?
Black and white. No,
My favorite's when it's like a death metal kind of logo, but it's very, very clearly readable, but they still put in parentheses,
Oh, yes.
the name underneath it, like, in case you can't read it.
It's so good. Like their own fans wouldn't recognize it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, wow. Okay, now I wasn't sure. Thank you. Thank you. You know, wearing the shirt, you know, but
yeah. The other thing I thought was really cool was some of these flyers were just like the crazy lineups that would sometimes happen back in the day, just like from like the heyday of kind of like the MySpace, the more like MySpace era, MySpace days, and like some of the old school band, like you would just have sometimes like it would just align where it's like these 7 kind of, to us now, kind of like iconic but super underground bands, you know, but looking back on it, you see this flyer with all these names. It's like I would have just, like, me personally, having been, if I had been to one of those shows like back in the day, would have freaked the fuck out, you know. And I look at this flyer now and like, whoa, I still nerd out about it. He's like, oh, that's so sick. All kind of unknown bands, but like super niche in this like thing that we do, right? But
Right.
do you have any like memories of like some of these like crazy like crossover lineups? Like you just mentioned like being put onto like a Whitechapel touring, you know, lineup, but you guys were also touring or whatever. Do you have any memory of like some of those like old band lineups that were kind of crazy from back in the day?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who all was on it right now. I know there's one, we did a like battle of the bands for it in Tacoma, and then it was called the Emerald City Death Fest, and I think it was a couple tours that were merging, and we, as if 2 tours merging wasn't enough bands, they wanted to add more local bands to it to make it a fest.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So we opened the Emerald City Death Fest, and I know the Faceless. I believe the Faceless headlined that. Oh man, if I had. Do you mind if I pull
go for
open
it?
My
yeah, go for it, babe. Yeah,
I definitely have access to all this.
we don't mind. We're actually happy if you do that.
By all means,
So,
yeah, man.
won't be the one complaining here. That's for sure. So
Yeah, some of the. Are you much of a nostalgic person?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of, why I started looking at all this stuff in the first place, was just because growing up, I was so obsessed with band DVDs, and I had like the Slipknot VHS, and it was always exciting for me to see like behind the scenes of bands and stuff, and so that was kind of like what sparked my, that's gonna be me one day. And I was very, very into the idea, and I think that may be part of why I held on to this stuff too, was just, in the back of my mind was like, I want this to be valuable at some point, and I think it's going to be.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because, yeah, it's just funny too, because you kind of say like, you say that, but then in another sentence, not too much before that, you were kind of like, well, I've seen these photos before. Like, it's not really special to me because, like, I've already seen them a bunch of times, right?
It is weird.
But I get it. Like, yeah. But it's like one of those weird things, right? It's kind of like, photos on your cell phone, it's like so easy to take a photo now. You like take them, but you're not really looking back on them. But it's kind of the thought of potentially being kind of nostalgic or wanting to look back on things from the past, like down the line, that's kind of like the idea. Then you end up with like 4,000 photos on your iPhone that you're never gonna look back on,
and half of them are blurry or bad.
Yeah.
16 version of the same thing for no reason, just to have a lot of pictures, to make sure you have a good one. But
I have plenty of those of my dogs, but that's a different thing.
Makes sense though, because I think that's what happens. Is just.
I mean, dogs are kind of like ghosts. Like, there just is no way of taking a still photo of a dog.
They know. They're perfect. You're like, I'm taking a picture, gone. They're gonna do everything they can so that it doesn't work. I don't know why.
Okay, I found this flyer. Are you ready?
Oh hell yeah!
This is Emerald City Death Fest. We had the Faceless, Born of Osiris, Decrepit Birth, Shai Halud, Abigail Williams, Veil of Maya, Neuraxis, and Burning the Masses.
Holy shit, dude.
Oh
That's
my
an
god.
insane, and it's kind of like a random lineup too, like Shai Hulud on that.
Yeah,
It's
right.
kind of like a random to add onto
But
a
that's
bill.
what I
like
think the weird.
Yeah.
I think it was like two tours that like
Yeah,
happened to
yeah.
cross over, and so. But yeah, we did that with. I think there were a couple of other local bands that opened it with us, but yeah,
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
that one being a pretty big one.
That's crazy.
And I know you said it,
man.
but what year was that? Just out of curiosity.
That was 2008.
Oh man.
And that's such a good period. I mean, like I'm thinking Veil of Maya 2008. They have like
Faceless
Commencement Collapse,
2008, man.
the
Dude.
Faceless.
Prime
Like
era.
it's a
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
very
really
early.
good era for all those bands as well. You know, that's always my first questioning too. When I see like a lineup like that, I'm trying to picture. When I see like Suicide Silence, I'm like, okay, is that the cleansing era? Like, I'm always trying to think about like what's happening, but I'm guessing that it went crazy probably with that, you know, with that lineup.
Yeah,
Veil burning.
we had. I'm pretty sure I have a few photos from that show on
Mm.
the Deathcore Memoir because it was a pretty big deal at the time.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Was that the first time? Like, because it's a crazy lineup. But do you recall the first time as a band that you guys kind of were stressed because like you were with a bigger bands? Maybe like the first time you were just like, oh my god, we're opening for that band or something. Do you recall like the first time that happened? Like, oh my god, we're playing with these guys. You know?
Let me think. I remember the very first time we played at Studio 7,
Mm.
or I played at Studio 7 at least, which was like the we basically lived at this venue. Like we opened every single show that happened, and we were there seeing our friends play shows. We were there seeing shows just because like we were always at Studio 7. And the first time I played there, we were playing with Full Blown Chaos, and I was like, wow, this is a big band. I know that name. And, you know, this was a few months after I had joined, so it wasn't like this is very early on. And I do want to throw that out there. I noticed on the
Right. I was saying OG. You're
posts.
throwing me for a loop here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually joined the band after I moved to Seattle in 2006.
Mm.
So I was Studio 7 again. I posted on the MySpace page for my school's, they had a music thing. And I posted, was anyone going to this Embrace the End show at Studio 7? And our old guitar player, Jake, messaged me back and he was like, yeah, I'm going to go. I'll go with you. And so that was the first time I met him. We get to the show and Embrace the End didn't show up. And that was the first time I met John. And John drove me back to my apartment. And so that was the first time I met them. And they were like recording the vocals for the What You Deserve EP, I think.
Okay.
But then a couple months later, the other guitar player left, and I had gotten along with Jake really well, and we were just hanging out a lot. So it was just kind of like he was kind of hoping the other guitar player would quit at that point because it was like such a perfect match.
Yeah.
And so he ended up doing his own thing, and that's when I joined. So I actually joined, I want to say March or April of 2006.
But does that all happen in the same year though? Like, is that kind of, because I guess the info that I had kind of seen online was that the band started in 2006. So I was like, I had to be early, right? Like had to be from the beginning. And then if you're saying like, March, April, I guess the band was technically a band prior to 2006, I guess.
It would have been 05, yeah. It would have been probably like October, late 2005 when they first got together and were doing things. I don't know the exact date, but yeah, they were they weren't really doing a whole lot at the time
Hmm.
that I came around. It was just, a local show, maybe once or maybe twice a month.
Right. Like, did they even have music out before the EP actually dropped?
No,
So that
no.
was the first music, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So, but you joined before that album came out, technically, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty
So
much
I guess
as it was
sure.
coming out.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that kind of like makes it seem like you were there from before the first recording was out. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, he was there from the beginning type thing, but it was
Right.
more of a it just happened at the same time type thing.
Yeah, yeah. It all
Yeah,
just kind of fell together.
yeah.
I
Huh.
I have to ask, like, how mind blowing was it to hear John's vocals? Like, I do have to ask because, like, this person, like, still to this day, honestly, it's some of the best freaking vocals I've ever heard. So I do have to ask, like, were you just kind of, oh my god, or did you know? Maybe did you hear something prior to that, or?
I was just like, I was actually there when they were recording the vocals, and I didn't really. I was just like, oh wow, this is heavy music. I'm excited. I'm 19 and
Hmm.
living in
Yeah.
a huge city for the first time, and so like it didn't really strike me as anything like out of the ordinary. And it
Okay.
was just, especially because it was, I like a lot of the band started out as at kind of like a straight edge band.
Mm.
And I never like declared myself as straight edge, but I was never like, I never drank or smoked or anything at that time, so I fit along with them really well on that aspect of things too. Um, but yeah, they were just kind of they were, you know, in their infancy. I would put
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Yeah, but you were kind of more also, I guess, it's just like
Yeah.
hanging out with these people, right? Like,
Yeah, because we were
not
both
being
in
in the band,
audio
just kind of like,
school and just
yeah,
I was looking for friends anyway, and so this guy that turned out to be my friend is and continues to shout out to Jake, one of my best friends ever to
Mm.
this day. So it just kind of worked out that the people that I met were kind of in the same thought process and were kind of into the same things all at the same time.
Were
Natural
you?
process type.
Hmm.
It kind of all
Totally.
happened naturally. It made sense for you.
Yeah.
So there was no question. You were not like in your head being like, oh, what? It was just like, it works. It's cool. I'm having fun. Kind
Yeah.
of more in the moment type thing,
Hmm.
right? Okay.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
and it was, I feel like I got to I just kind of John's vocals have just always been John's vocals to me. It's like um that it it's just kind of who he was, and it's just like like with anyone, if you've ever talked to Phil from Whitechapel, like he's just the most quiet, awkward, down to earth dude, and then he gets up on stage 5 minutes later, and you don't even recognize him, and that's just it's the same kind of thing with him. Like I'm just like, oh, that's Phil. Like, all right. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Makes sense. Makes sense. For people from the outside, it's like, oh my God, John. But like for you, it's like he's your okay, cool. It's John doing his thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
more just
it's
cool.
it's a little bro.
Yeah.
Makes
Well,
sense.
were you listening to a lot of deathcore before like joining the band? Was that already something that you were into? Because then it kind of like became a part of your life regardless. But like, I'm curious if that was already a thing you were really vibing with.
Yeah, I don't know, how to categorize it exactly, but before I moved up to Seattle, I was like It Dies Today and uh, Through the Eyes of the Dead. I both
Sure.
really, really loved, and I didn't at the time. I don't think deathcore was a word. It was just kind
Mm.
of this really heavy stuff, and I even remember buying the It Dies Today album, the Cat Choir, and listening to it on my way home and thinking like, oh my God, like what did I buy? Like maybe this is too heavy for me. And then,
Yeah.
slowly,
Little did
slowly
you
that,
know, yeah.
yeah.
Was it? Yeah, was it?
But yeah, those were definitely big influences on me. A lot of like Lamb of God. I like the first Trivium album. Was really into
Yeah.
that. All That Remains. Those early stuff really influenced me with like the harmony and the riffs and stuff.
Well, that's
As
what
I
I
Lay
was kind
Dying,
of
of course.
right. So I'm hearing melody from like all these bands, right? Like
Yeah.
big like I don't know. All these bands had kind of like big melodic riffs, that were
Hmm.
kind of like anthems. That was
Hmm.
kind of the thing. But
Yeah,
And
I feel like breakdowns as a thing were kind of new to me. That was kind of a new term when I started hanging out with the I Declare War guys, because obviously I knew what they were because of the bands that I listened to, but I never had a real classification
mm-hmm.
for it at that point. So that was
The
something that
drop,
was kind of new.
some
Yeah,
weird like made up word to describe
right.
it.
Writing a just open chug riff was kind of new to me at that time.
Mm.
So and and also when I joined I Declare War, they were very um, they had a lot of like tough guy hardcore influence. So there were more like two-step beats and just less riffy type stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of made it a point to add that stuff in once I got more comfortable in the band. And
let's play some notes.
yeah, yeah. When I joined, I had a few songs that I had written in high school, and I was like, one of them was ended up being "Now You're Going to Be Famous,"
Mm.
and so we kind of worked that into rearranged a few things to do more of their style. But
Added breakdowns, I assume.
yeah, exactly.
Open chug riffs is what
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
but there were a lot of things, different elements that I drew from coming into it.
Just a quick second to talk about the sponsor of this episode, Indie Merch Store. Signs of the Swarm have recently announced their upcoming album To Rid Myself of Truth alongside a bunch of pre-orders. Get yourself all new t-shirt designs, long sleeves, hoodies, flags, as well as CDs and one of two limited vinyl variants. All that over at indiemerchstore.com. Quickly as well, just a few smaller things. Indie Merch Store recently got a repress of Peeling Flesh's 3-year peeling spree alongside a brand new t-shirt. We have Disembodied Tyrant and Synestia. They restocked their Poetic Edda vinyl. And last but not least, we have Face Yourself, who have been added to the store with 2 brand new t-shirt designs as well. You can use code BRUTALITY at checkout to save yourself 10% off your entire order. It helps support the show and, you save a little bit of money. So as always, a big shout out to Indie Merch for sponsoring the show. Brutality Podcast is currently sponsoring not one, but 2 tours right now. The first of which is the Self-Help Others Harm tour featuring Thus Spoke Zarathustra. It's their album release tour, and they're doing a full US and bringing along a bunch of awesome revival bands. So we've got In Which Divides Us, Lilith's Demise, Slamwich, Mauled, Surfaced, Brain Injury Unit, Houses We Die In, and Delilah. They're all doing regional support slots. So if you hit the link in the description, there will be all the info about who is playing where, ticket links, and all of that. The second tour is the Bring Back the Brutal Tour 2025, featuring our homies in Peacemaker and I Saw God. They're doing a mostly south of the US tour, going coast to coast. So they've got dates in California, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and of course, Florida. Same thing here. There's a link in the description for all the tour dates and all of the details. That kind of segues, I guess, into Amidst the Bloodshed. Like, that was... how did it feel for you guys? Because I feel like, that album kind of like did the rounds at least MySpace wise, was like a popular thing back in the day.
Hmm.
Like it was like is regarded as like one of the most batshit fucking heavy things that we had ever listened to. But like how was it for you guys? Like, because you talk like, I guess for you specifically, like you talk about this like song you wrote in high school that's now being put into this album that like is doing numbers all of a sudden. Like, did you guys
Hmm.
kind of like feel that when you guys released the music, or as the years went on, or was it kind of, I guess, maybe more of a slow burn? Or because that video you guys put out for that song actually is like kind of, it went viral, if anything, right?
It's nearing 1 million views
Yeah.
after all these years, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know. It's kind of one of those. It's. I feel like what we were doing at the time, I was so focused on, like I said, all I did was watch those DVDs
Mm.
and read, you know, behind the scenes stuff, and I wanted to make that my life, and so I was focused on doing that. And um, once we had this kind of collection of songs together, um, we were kind of talking a little bit with Guy from the Red Chord about doing something with black market activities, and it just didn't work out at the time. I'm not really sure what the deal was, but he connected us to, or I don't know if he connected us, but somewhere along the way there was a label called
Compton.
no, it was like a straight edge label. Um,
Like super
Man,
underground, or kind of like, no, like a Seventh Dagger
Pre,
type thing,
pre,
or like a,
Seventh Dagger. Yeah,
okay.
exactly. Seventh Dagger. They John was really into their stuff because they were a straight edge label,
Mm.
and so he kept pushing us to them, but they were like, "Well, you don't claim,
Mm.
so you can't be on our label." And
Mm-hmm.
but they then referred us to Compton, who was
Yeah.
starting a label with zero restrictions,
Mm-hmm.
and so then, and it was just kind of like it felt very natural at that point too. We were doing everything, like we didn't get money from Compton or anything. Like he
Yeah.
didn't, help us. Um, he didn't
I wanted
help
to ask
us
some
record.
backstory. I kind of like, I guess, the deal with Compton, because there's like a few bands on there, then kind of that's it, right? Like it was a super short lived
Yeah.
thing ultimately. But
Hmm.
who was doing Compton? Like what was the relation there?
Yeah, his name was David Compton,
Okay.
and he was from North Carolina, and super cool guy. And we were really happy with what he did as far as distribution and getting us. He helped us with a few tours and stuff, and so we weren't. It's like me saying he didn't help us with recording isn't a bad thing. Like that was
Right. Yeah,
just
yeah. That was
how it
just not the
was.
deal. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so we recorded all of that in my basement at the house that me and Jake were living at. And then we did the drums at a studio in um, Black Diamond, Washington. And the engineer was uh, a a instructor of Jake and mine at the Art Institute. His name is Tom Faffel, and he's a super cool guy. He did the drums for us, and then he mastered the record afterwards. And then a few years later, he passed away. Unfortunately, was on vacation in Twisp and went to the wrong hotel room. The person that was inside shot through the door and killed him. So I always like to memorialize Tom whenever
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can because he was a really great guy, and he,
Yeah.
definitely
Like,
wouldn't have had put out Amidst the Bloodshed without him because, we recorded at his studio and he mastered it. So always like to shout out Tom when I can. But yeah, Compton was mostly just, getting merch and help with tour dates and distribution
mm,
and stuff like that. We every once in a while we'd go to like a Hot Topic in the mall and we'd see it there, and that would be
Mm.
super exciting.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, that was kind of the main extent of
Yeah,
what the
yeah.
label was.
I mean, look, if it was making it, especially making it in Hot Topic near where you guys are at, I mean, the poll went further than South Carolina, so there's that already.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool though. Yeah, because he did like Kalira too, and like Mortis Sermon, like
Cholera, yeah.
cholera. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we
I've
did
always
a
said Kalira. My bad. That's the
no,
French
yeah, they
talking.
were from Ohio, and we did a little tour with them in 2008, and they didn't have a van, so it was the five of us and the five of them in a 15 passenger van for
Oh.
3 or 4 weeks, I think. Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah. It's like kind of like maybe the best way to make friends, or maybe the worst way at the same time. You know? Everyone wants to kind of bite each other's head off at the end of one of those. Damn, man. What Yeah. So when you guys put out now you're going to be famous, like did that, you alluded to it nearly hitting 1 million views now, was it kind of an immediate thing, like did it go viral back then? Because I mean, even YouTube back then was kind of like a not that big of a thing, right?
Well, that's the thing. At the time, us putting a a video out was kind of a big deal because
Mm,
like bands didn't have money to do that, and like putting out a video costs a lot of money, and there were very few places to see it. And so it was like we were really excited to shoot this video. Our friend Ryan Cam shot it, and he, you know, he was just kind of wanting to get more experience in doing video stuff, and we were wanting a video, and so again, it was kind of a perfect match of things, um, and yeah, it was kind of hard to get a real metric on it because it wasn't, YouTube wasn't like it is now.
mm-hmm.
And I think it was hosted on a different site for a while, and when it now that it's on YouTube, it's like on my personal YouTube account,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so it's not like it's not like on an official uh, outlet or anything. So yeah, it was just kind of strange because I always think of that now. It's like so many like bands that come out now kind of have to introduce themselves with a music video to be kind of taken seriously. But
Right.
at the time, like us putting out a video months after the album had already come out, we were like,
Mm.
yeah, we've got a music video. This is so cool. So it's like just it's really crazy to see how things have changed.
Right, it was like a
It
niche
helps
thing back in the
too.
day, and now it's like you have to.
Hmm. Exactly.
Label thing as well. Like I'm noticing now, back in the days, every time like people wouldn't make the distinction between a distribution label. A label was a like their sign. That's it. Like
Right.
for most of
Yeah.
us, like, at least for me, it took me years to even know what that means. But I was just like their sign. So just being signed, no matter what you got from it, and having a music video for a lot of people meant, oh, that's an actual, you know what I mean? Like
They're legit. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
Hmm.
okay. That's a band I should know about. Like
Right.
they're big. So it was also, nowadays everything is stripped down. You see everything, the behind the scenes, the stories, everything. But back then, your image, you were in control basically of your image and what you project. So I'm guessing just by doing those moves, a lot of people already thought you guys were doing super well, right? That was kind
Yeah.
of
I
the
mean, especially because, it wasn't like YouTube, anyone can upload a video.
Mm.
It was there were very few outlets where it could be seen. And so yeah, having something more than just photos was definitely different.
Yeah,
cool.
I always talk about that when it comes to like band like image and stuff. Like what Yan's saying is really like it kind of drives home like whenever you're able to position your band in the people's mind as like larger than it actually is, That's like the best thing,
Hmm.
someone will walk in and see your CD in Hot Topic and it seems trivial, but some kid that doesn't know your music will be like, oh, this band is legit, or like
Yeah,
because you have a
totally.
music video or because you're signed, whatever, maybe it's a shitty deal. Not saying for you guys, but it could be the shittiest deal in the world and you could
Yeah.
be fucked over royally, but hey, these guys are signed sick, these
Yeah. Oh
guys.
yeah.
So
That's
it's like it's
exactly how it felt back then.
Yeah. Well, it's a really good. I do have to plug that. I talked earlier about Tumblr, and you guys was my realization of what it was to be in a band, and I'm always gonna remember. I'm on Tumblr. I don't know if you remember. You used to do like Q&As and stuff
Oh
with
yeah.
fans. Like we
Yeah.
could okay, and I was there quite a lot. I fully remember. Like even once, I don't know if it was you, but like I remember once, like you would see. I was always there, so it was just like, oh, okay, it's you.
I was the
Um,
only one that did it.
and
Yeah. So.
okay, it was just like I was always there, and I fully remember asking like if it was your actual like being an ID Clower was like your whole
Job.
career, and I fully remember the answer was just like, no, dude, we all have like another job. And to me, at that precise moment, I think I was maybe like 16 or something like that, and I would do music, and I kept talking every day with my friend like, oh my god, and I would, that's what I wanted to do, and not to say that I didn't want it at that moment, but in my mind, you guys suffocate all those bands at that level. In my mind, we're living in like mansions or something. It was just
Totally.
like you're all set, like these bands. Like in my mind, even the tour bus, like everybody was in the tour bus, like Bring Me
Hmm.
the Horizon and stuff like that. But it was needed because afterwards I was like, oh, I kind of realized
Broke
like
your worldview.
kind of, but I needed that though. I needed that because my vision was still you get signed, you're all set. That
Right.
was my vision. You get signed, like if we were like a rock band in the 70s or something. Like
Hmm.
you get signed because I think back then it was kind of that. Like if you made it type
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
back then. But in the deathcore band, you guys made me realize it might be a little bit different than what I
a
and it
little
was in
ambitious
the
for you specifically to hang everything up on your deathcore band. Yeah.
maybe maybe I had a little bit of second like I was just like I can still do this, but maybe some other plans would be good at the same time is what I realized at that moment.
Well, see, it's funny
um
because like I even had that same kind of perception of bands like Whitechapel when we were touring alongside of them. I was like, oh, well, Whitechapel's set. They're no big deal. But then come to realize, like once I'm touring with them, they're like, we're getting this bus because it's the cheapest, and it's like, okay,
Mm,
you know,
yeah,
everyone's pulling the purse strings.
yeah.
Yeah. On
Yeah.
the other side, though, it made me not that I didn't. I always respected, like as I said, I'm a big fan of all of this, but like I've respected even more every single person in bands doing it, touring, doing everything. Like it just made me realize, oh my god, this is not like I had the full image of just like you're partying, it's cool, you're in the bus, like you're with
Hmm.
friends, like that. That's the entire image that I had. It was just like, oh my god, it's so. But then you realize, okay, these people, everybody you see right now on quote unquote on top or made or whatever, they went through all of this most of the time, like that touring in a van, you're stuck with 10 freaking people, the
Hmm.
van breaks while you're on tour, don't even know how you can actually pay for the operation. All of this, I understand now when you see musicians on stage, sometimes, they're emotional or it's kind of I'm like, sure, after, after
Yeah.
all you went through, it just makes
It's
all this. So,
Yeah, it's a commitment for sure, and you have to have the means and ability to step away from real life in order to make it your life. And that's kind of where things fell apart a little bit for me, and falls apart for a lot of people when it's just not sustainable anymore.
Hmm.
you gotta live too, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the part that people forget, but like there's actually things to pay. You need to do your
Yeah,
stuff. So
unfortunately, your rent is still up when you're on tour.
well,
So
Yeah.
they don't care, right? You cannot really tell the bank. Well,
hey, I didn't use my apartment for 2 months. Come on, guys.
If only, you know. I can prove it. I was, and you had a 15 billion.
Didn't you look at
pictures.
my Instagram? Yeah, you can see
Yeah.
where I was every night. I was gone.
I have proof. I was there. Yeah. Oh man.
Okay, can we kind of? I want to talk about the Christmas album.
Ooh.
And then I want to kind of, maybe it ties into some of the early material as well. But I saw in one of your posts somewhere, you kind of alluded to some of that early material, including the Christmas album, kind of just really being like, you guys are playing music for fun. Like there's not much of like a business sense to it, or like a greater than, like it's a bigger goal or something. You guys are just kind of like fucking around and having fun making music, which, you know, in the long run, if you're any type of successful band, you kind of got to switch that tune a little bit, at least, you know?
Yeah.
So can you kind of bring us back to, I guess, specifically first the Christmas album and how that kind of, you know, the idea of that and how that kind of came about? I'd love to hear about that.
It's very similar to Now You're Gonna Be Famous. That was something that I did in high school that I just thought was funny. And I made CDs for my friends at Christmas with, you know, these very, very poorly recorded, quote unquote, metal Christmas songs. And when it came around to Christmas and I was in the band, I was like, let's do this, you guys. This will be stupid and funny. And so we did it. We did one version of them one year, and then we did the following year we did another version of them, and those are the ones that ended up on the CD. But yeah, it was just something that was like, this is so stupid, and we're just having a good time. Like, you know, we were very much not taking ourselves seriously and just doing it because we could. And I do want to, though, take full credit for the Jingle Bell Rock.
Okay.
That is one of my favorite things that I've ever recorded. The fact that it's like identical to the studio version, and there's no distorted guitars, there's nothing different about it other than John singing over a clean guitar. That is one of my favorite things that I've ever done.
To be fair, I think that's the one that kind of resonated the most with people too. Right?
Yeah.
Like, there's just something so, like, I don't know if it's the irony, or I don't know what it, but it's just so dumb that it's like,
it's so
you can't not like
stupid.
it. Yeah.
Super uplifting song with like the brutal vocal over it. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I remember we were recording it, and they were like, "Okay, so when like our drummer Randy at the time, he was like, "Okay, so when," I'm like, "No, just listen to it, play what he's playing, just go along with it, just keep going. Nothing, it's just gonna stay that way. Just you're good." Then I came in with the clean guitar, and yep, that was it.
Wow.
Was everyone kind of initially on board with that idea? Like, was there any convincing to be had, or everyone just thought it was fucking
Zero
hilarious?
convincing.
It was like all in.
Yeah,
Oh,
that sounds like a good time, because you know we'd
be
throw a
funny.
song up on MySpace for a couple weeks, and that would be the last you ever hear of it. Like, we didn't think about it as like, oh, this is career building or anything. It was just something funny to do, and yeah, we've got, you know, 2 versions of them now, so people love it.
I mean, to touch on that, like, it really did pick up a lot. Like, it blew the fuck up, right? Like, is that something that you're kind of like, you know, because then it's like that becomes like such a talking point, and like maybe for some people it's the only reason why they know the band, and maybe you've got like this other music. You're like, hey guys, we do actual music. Listen to this. You know, was there any of that kind of going around at that time?
I haven't really had anyone say that, you know, that's their like main album that they go back
Would
to
be
or
funny though.
anything.
Would be funny though.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, people I have no problem with it anymore. Like there was definitely a time where it was like, yeah, we are a real band and we want to do real things, and we've grown out of that. But I think, um when I got asked to do the actual CD
Yeah.
pressing of it a couple of years ago, it was like, you know what? That was a time of pure just fun and just enjoying doing what we were doing and having fun with friends and not worrying about, what specific genre we fit into or, who I don't know. It was just fun, and now I look back on it like really happy that that was something that, we were able to just have fun with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also, there's many reasons to, connect or relate to certain songs. And you never know, even if you did it for fun, sometimes people even resonate with that part. The
Yeah.
fact that it was for fun. They love that specifically. So to me, the way I see it, it's a win anytime you reach or you evoke any sorts of emotion that people connect to. To me, it's a win. That's the whole purpose of art. So of course, when you're younger, you're just like, really, like that, like that's
Yeah.
that's what I did.
That's
that
the
you-
thing. That's the
but-
thing that people are stoked about. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you're just like, come on, but on the other end, it's just like, well, there's so many bands and artists that unfortunately never get that from anything they produce. That's just how it is. So
Yeah.
the way I see it is just anything that resonate with people, it's great. You
Totally.
you did something. So
Yeah.
just
And again, it's about community, making connections and having a good time, man. That's all music is. I was at this record store just a couple days ago. I have no idea what record this girl found, but she pulled it up. I watched her face light up. She hugged the record, and I was like, "Hell yeah. That is what music should do. That is what like I am all about when it comes to music." So, yeah, I'm here for goofy fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
powerful.
I'm imagining that exact scenario of the person hugging the vinyl, but with the most brutal, disgusting death metal band cover and band name, Oh, my
a
favorite
smile.
band. Yeah, yeah.
Brings me comfort.
I mean, we've all been there, so
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
We're not normal, but it's okay.
I don't want to have, I guess, the same conversation here, but we got to touch on I Declare Goddess, and I'm assuming there's some similar themes going on there about, just fucking around and just doing whatever,
yeah.
And then again, I guess you kind of touched on collaboration. I guess that kind of segues to like,
Yeah.
I'd love. So we had, I told you off stream, we've had Cam on twice, and he gave his long-winded version of of how all that went down. But I'd love to hear from like your perspective, kind of, because you wrote some of the music, like you were there in the room with them when they were doing it too, and then kind of you have the behind-the-scenes stuff on your channel and stuff. So I'd love kind of like your perspective on how that kind of recording session went, how it kind of came about.
I mean, Cam, I don't know. I I haven't heard what Cam said. But he lived right around the corner from my dad, and we were stuck there on a day off from a little tour that we were doing because show had gotten canceled. And so we knew Cam was around, so we were like, "Hey, let's just hang out," because we knew each other. And so that's when he was doing all the like Cam every day, and he was really into putting out content before content creation was really a thing. Like,
yeah, before
I
we called
kinda
it
feel
content.
like-
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves for being kind of a
Yep.
on the front lines of content creation type stuff.
100%.
But we just went over to his little, home studio that he had and was like, well, let's record a song. And it just kind of happened. It like if you ever sit down with him in a studio, he's just immediately excited and immediately knows what he wants to do, and he's committed, and it's just like, oh, you want to do that? Okay, let's go, let's do it. And he does it, and
Mm.
he's just so just instant. So it just, there was absolutely no plan for this. It was just like, oh yeah, we're gonna go hang out with Cam, and then suddenly we had this song. And yeah, I had my video camera. I was taping stuff at the time. I had to tape it all and then import it into, computer to edit it. Um, but I wrote a little part, and I think I can't remember which part it is now. It's in that making of video.
Yeah.
But we all kind of wanted to make sure we had a piece of the
Yeah.
song. We didn't really think that it was going to be this, vocal thing that would last for forever. Because I think it's over 2 million views at this
And
point.
that's a re-upload from like way down the
Yeah.
line too. Yeah.
Right. 'Cause he took it
Kids
down
like
for a
it
while.
now. By
And-
the way, kids like younger, like people are loving
The new
it
generation
now.
are
Yeah.
about it too. It's crazy. Yeah.
and I think the only, like, I didn't mind it being a thing. The only thing that bothered me was that everyone got them confused. And everyone's like, oh, Cam sings for I Declare War, and
Mm.
John is this guy. And and here's another thing that was just, we did it because we thought it would be stupid and funny, was for them to wear each other's shirts.
Yeah.
And so that's why we were just like, oh, that would be dumb. And it turned out to be very dumb, because that caused even more confusion. So that being kind of a thing where people would, ask us about Cam being in the band, and it's like, no, Cam is not in the band. Cam is figuring the goddess, and it's so that was the most tiring part for me, I guess. But yeah, I totally understand from their viewpoint of it just being like over and over. That's all people talk about, and like,
Yeah. Yeah, because
But
I think Cam alluded to the fact that the I Declare War camp specifically was kind of fed up with only being talked about that video
in
at shows and stuff. Like,
sense, yeah.
yeah.
And the funniest thing too is, like, Cam was wearing that shirt that says, if it ain't broke, blast beat the fuck out of it. And like, as if the things that we made, as if the things that were confusing enough, we had the logo printed on it in black on a black shirt, because that was a thing at
Yeah.
some point that we thought was cool. So you can't even read the logo on his shirt anyway. So it was just like the series of missteps that I guess we kind of got what we deserved with the whole singer confusion.
Well, again, to your defense, it's also this thing where things have changed now and people are hearing it and it sounds like you're aware of the impact. But back then, it was all or nothing. You could just throw so many things online and nothing would ever, okay, it's just something fun we did. But you couldn't really know, even now. But I mean, like, you can predict a little more now, maybe. But back then, which video is going to get pick up? Who knows? You know, like, I would have asked you guys, hey, you're going to have millions of views. And you would have been like, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. It's just for fun. So there's that too in the balance, you know. And the other factor, I think, is that now we see collaboration, a lot of features, stuff like that. Back in the days, to have those two vocalists together on something as over the top as it was, dare I say, was a first. You know, we're talking about Cam not having enough credit, but to you guys, to your idea, even if it was for fun, for the scene, for people in general, everybody was just like, what is happening? It was a new thing. We'd never seen that. And those vocals as well, to their credit, like, what was that? Like, I remember thinking, what? You can do that vocally? So I think there was a lot, you say there's a lot of misstep, but I'm also seeing a lot of, just to back it up, like, there's a lot of innovation through it that made it special, I think. I just wanted to.
No, I appreciate that. It's always hard to look at things outside of your own lens, and so hearing that perspective on it is very interesting. but again, it was something similar to the Christmas songs where it was just like, oh, we're just gonna throw this up online for a little while, and I don't think we understood the permanence of the
Yeah.
internet at that
Right,
point
right.
because things were just there, and then we would change the song on MySpace, and that's what it was, and
Yeah.
and we didn't really realize that, here we would be 15 years later still talking about
Mm,
it.
yeah,
Who
yeah,
would have
yeah.
thought, though?
Yeah.
To be
Look,
fair.
we didn't think so either. To be fair, yeah. Yeah, man. Look, 2015 rolled around, and I was like, "Oh, time to pack up my bags with deathcore, man. There's no more talk about these things anymore." But hey, we're back.
Just
So
getting started.
yeah, that's funny, man. Um, yeah, I don't know where to kind of take this. I
Well,
guess like I don't know, man. The band went
I was
through. Oh, go for it. Go for it.
sorry. I was about to ask personally if you,
Yeah.
because we're talking about that. We're talking about that. I kind of want to know, in that specific period of time, do you recall the moment where you guys were starting to realize, oh, it's picking up, like something is happening? Can you like, because we're talking about the timeline, a lot of stuff happened, and for sure these things has worked, but within the band, like when can you do you recall the moment where just like, guys, I think, like we're speaking more traction with MySpace or whatever, with tours? Or do you recall when it was during those days?
Yeah, since we had met Whitechapel in such a like early stage in their career, um, we just kept in touch with them anytime they would come through Washington. We, go to Studio 7 to see them, or John would always let them stay at his place, and they'd, throw their sleeping bags out on his floor for a couple days, and we'd go hang out. So we had known the Whitechapel guys for quite some time, and once the Artery label was getting going, they Alex from Whitechapel was kind of like managing us under his manager, um, and he reached out to us to do something, further along than what we had, and we weren't really sure of the specifics quite yet, and we did a tour in September of 2009, that was pretty much, it was all full US, I think, um, and we along that way we ended up making a kind of temporary agreement with Artery. And then we formalized it at the end of that tour in September of 2009. And so that was kind of setting up the everything for the release of Malevolence, and the couple Whitechapel tours and other tours that we did afterwards. So it was kind of around, I guess, like late 2009 where we were like, okay, if the guys in Whitechapel are pulling for us, like maybe there is, something we can do about this.
Well,
And
Artery had some banger bands back in the day there too. Like, and it
yeah,
was kind of it was
they
larger than
brought in
deathcore.
Chelsea
It's not like
Grin,
a
and
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think we released on the same day as Chelsea Grin too.
Okay. Good
I,
day
I
for
think it was
deathcore, I
us,
guess.
Chelsea Grin, and one of the Whitechapel albums came out all on the same day, which I
Oh shit.
felt was kind of unfortunate for us, but
Yeah, maybe it's not.
I
Yeah.
pushed for getting a For Fans Of sticker on there. I was like, let's get a For
Mm,
Fans Of Whitechapel, so people that are picking up the
yeah.
Whitechapel record will be like, why not?
Yeah.
Would have made sense too, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly.
I think we ended up getting one with it said Whitechapel and Job for a Cowboy, I think.
There we go.
That's a
Yeah.
compliment.
Yeah, and I mean most of the times, to be fair too, I mean, most of the times those for fans of mentions were always kind of dog shit. Like they never really made sense. Yeah. Sometimes you could tell it was
Dude.
just like, let's put some band names that people really know on this. It was like
We
for
just need
fans.
to sell this.
Yeah, it's like for fans of Trivium and Bullet for My Valentine's, it's like deathcore band. Like I'm not so
Yeah.
sure about this, you know.
For fans of it's Ryu, it's Oceano. Yeah, okay. So it's just maybe not. Yeah. No, but it's cool. So that was the moment for you guys. Okay, it's working. Yeah, because I'm guessing it gave a push, and I don't want to move us too much along, but you had kind of a, at least from my perspective, a second rise when in the time with like the switch happened, Misery Cloud and stuff like that. There was kind of a second, just like kind of a boost. But what happened kind of between that? Did you guys started like touring like crazy and just like when you saw that, oh my god, okay, it's working, the archery thing and stuff like that? Was that kind of just the signal to, okay, we need to push and tour and kind of make this our priority type thing?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, once we had signed the contract with Artery, that was pretty much setting up the next year or so of what we were doing, because at that point it was like, okay, finalize new songs. And I think we went into the studio in November of that year, so it was only a couple months after signing
Mm,
the contract. So we recorded in Seattle, and then um, I don't know why it took so long, but we recorded in November and then it didn't come out until June.
Ooh.
But there was a little bit of a gap there where we weren't doing a whole lot, and I think that was there was a bit of like, let's pull back before we unleash everything.
right. Let's
Um,
hang out while we can, type thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so we had we recorded that November, and then we started doing a little bit of touring around May. We did we did a few shows with Whitechapel, and a couple more with on the on a tour with Whitechapel and Job for a Cowboy up here in the Pacific Northwest. So that was all just kind of gearing up for us to start touring pretty heavily once Malevolence dropped in June.
Mm.
And then
I
we
mean,
did the
at that point, Whitechapel was like a big fucking deal too.
oh
Like
I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
they
absolutely.
had risen, like they were on top at that point, right? So those tours
Yeah.
must have done super fucking well too, right?
Yeah, we did I mean, one of the they they were doing like a small like B market tour where, it's like it's not really bigger cities, it's smaller places with smaller rooms. And we did a tour where John actually ended up filling in for Phil for like 4 or 5 shows. So he was doing our set to open for Whitechapel, and then he was doing Whitechapel's set.
Jesus.
And so we did that, and then we did the couple tours with Molotov Solution and For the Fallen Dreams. But then those were mainly to set up for the 2 Whitechapel tours we did following that in the fall. So
Mm.
we did the Corrupt tour in the fall of 2010.
That was an insane lineup, right?
That was Whitechapel, Impending Doom, Miss May I, and Oceano, and
Yeah.
us. And that was
It's
kind
a
of a B
heavy
market
ass
tour
fucking tour,
too.
dude.
But then but then a couple
Mm.
months later, we did the Welcome to Hell tour,
Yeah, there we go.
which was Whitechapel, Acacia Strain, Veil of Maya, Chelsea Grin, and us.
Yeah.
And that was
Deathcore.
much bigger
Yeah.
rooms, and that was the first time where we were like playing like big stages, and I was like kind of
Mm.
like, is this really happening type thing?
Yeah. You have some space to run on stage, type thing.
Yeah, there's more than enough room for 5 people.
Yeah, it's cool to hear. By the way, like it says a lot about a band like Whitechapel. You know what I mean? Like doing that, for you. I think it's cool. Like just to commend them a little bit. Like just there's I'm guessing so many bands who maybe would have been in a position to do it, but it's not everybody who does it. Like rooting for you, and
Yeah.
they fully believed in what you guys, and not to discredit you. You guys worked hard and you did your thing, but having like the extra motivation and validation of just like Whitechapel actually love what we what we do. So it's not only helping technically to get on
Yeah,
those tours, but I'm guessing it was also helping like inside, being like, dude, guys, like Whitechapel love what we're doing. So it's an extra push in terms of being a band, right?
totally.
Also.
Yeah. And,
So
Alex, I got to shout him out again if I haven't already. Like one of my favorite people on the planet. He's just always been super supportive of I Declare War when we were first starting out, and then he was the one that gave me the phone call to start working for them. So he's been a huge influence and made a gigantic impact on my life in the ways that I, as a high schooler, was like, I want to do that someday, and he was the person that kind of made that happen in a lot of
Mm.
ways. So Alex is one of the best people that I know for sure.
I think too he was just like generally like that. Like
Oh yeah.
it's not the first time we hear this. I know he was the one who also was kind of like plugging a different breed of killer. We were
Yeah,
talking with
yeah.
their vocalist a little while
Hmm.
back, and he had quotes for them like, yeah, this band is the next the next
Yeah.
thing or whatever, and he was helping them link up with label stuff. And I think that's just kind of been him, right? Like kind of
Yeah. Yeah, they were from
they were
Tennessee
Knoxville too, yeah.
also, and
Okay.
they had a house that Whitechapel would practice in sometimes, and
Mm.
we stayed there once on tour, and I showed Alex pictures of him. He was like, "Damn, you were at the Adbach house! Holy shit!" So,
That's
yeah, it's
funny.
pretty cool that there's that another connection.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
you talk
um,
about full circle
uh,
too. I can only imagine for you, working, after a while, and then working with them. I mean, like
Hmm.
it's insane, But I think it's the same conversation earlier. You said, yeah, for me it's John doing vocals, but for you, with all those years with Whitechapel, it's another, it's full circle, but it's also like you love these guys, right? So
Yeah,
so working with them after all these years, it's like I'm guessing it was a mix of being super stoked and full circle, but at the same time, I'm gonna hang out with them once again. It's so cool, kind of all mixed together, I'm guessing.
yeah, and yeah, Mayhem was a really interesting thing because it was like I I felt like I was just going to hang out with them. Like
mm,
it didn't feel like I was going to work for them. I just knew I needed to change their guitar strings and move some stuff, but we were
yeah.
just hanging out. I was more excited to watch Slipknot every night. But, you know, that was just being able to hop into that environment so seamlessly because I knew all of them so well already. I think made a big difference because it was like, this gigantic festival tour. And I feel like
Mm,
if I were in a different, if I hadn't known, I mean, when I worked for As I Lay Dying for the one tour, like hopping into their world and doing the things their way scared the hell out of me because I didn't know them nearly as well as I knew the Whitechapel guys.
yeah.
I met them on Mayhem, and so I had only known them a few months before doing the tour with them, and so it was a total shock to
Mm,
say the least, of being in like a friendly buddy environment to a professional work environment
yeah,
in kind of the
yeah.
same thing. I was doing
Mm.
the same things, but they were totally different. I won't say different expectations, but it was just a very different vibe for sure.
Big places too, I'm guessing. I mean, we're talking about that side of this, so it's like they're doing big things, and it's probably
Oddly,
organized in some ways
they
differently.
were,
Or
well, yeah, it was, oddly enough, it was a B market tour, so we were in smaller type
okay,
venues. But we also carried 18, is that right? 9 by 9? Yeah. 18 guitar cabinets and two bass cabinets. So we had a full back line.
Jesus
Um,
Christ.
and so even though it was smaller places, we had a ton of stuff, and
Yeah, the
makes
gear
it
didn't
worse.
it was
change. Yeah, yeah, it
intimidating
makes it
to
worse.
say
Yeah,
the
exactly.
least.
it's just more difficult. Would have been
Most
better
nights
in a
we
bigger
didn't
place.
use all nine.
Yeah, yeah. I still
That's
I still
insane.
remember the age of like, bands having the scrims,
Yeah.
like
Oh
the
yeah.
PVC scrims, but like
Hmm.
some bands were like hell bent on like regardless of the size of the stage and the venue, we are going to put our scrims.
We
Even if I
paid,
can't,
man.
I
We got
have
to put them
no,
up.
we gotta put them up. I don't care if I can't move. I don't care if I have to touch them all night. Like we're putting them
Yep.
up.
But that was also a status symbol too, at
Yeah,
the time.
totally.
It was
Yeah.
like, ooh, that band can afford a little backdrop. Like, damn, they must be legit too.
Tissue and
So
PVC
They're
pipes.
living the
Woo,
life.
yeah.
They haven't mentioned probably they're millionaires. You talked about Slipknot and stuff, and as someone who like Slipknot a lot, how was that for you to be in that environment and see like such a? I mean, like it's Slipknot. I would be surprised if you're like it was horrible live. I'm guessing it was good, but like how was it for you to be in that environment and kind of witness that?
I saw Slipknot when I was 14, and it was Slipknot, System of a Down, Rammstein, and Mudvayne. And I, I'm a lifetime Slipknot fan. Like, whatever, I don't care what metal elitists think of Slipknot. Like,
It's not metal.
Slipknot's the shit. And so when I was working at a coffee shop, and my phone rang, and I see it's Alex from Whitechapel calling, and it's the middle of the day, and I'm like, oh, he's on Mayhem right now. I bet he's drunk, and he's like gonna call me and say something stupid. I gotta answer this. And so I pick up, and he's like, we need a new guitar tech. Can you come out? And immediately I was like, you're on tour with Slipknot. Like,
Mm.
I what? I'm gonna be on tour with Slipknot? Like, um, and so that was easily one of my, like, I can't even describe it, like, best 4 weeks of my life for sure. I think I skipped Slipknot one night, but most nights I watched a lot of Slayer. It was, yeah, and that was a moment for sure, that even though I wasn't, the one on stage, I was still like, this is the life that I dreamt of as a high schooler. And I'm, when I checked in, I was getting my credentials, and I look over, and Corey Taylor is standing there telling his kid that he needs to eat his vegetables.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, what
Right.
world am I in right now? Like, this can't be happening. And Tom Araya is sitting there in the cafeteria just eating, and I'm like, where I was making lattes for people like 3 days ago. Like, this is stupid.
Yeah,
Oh my God. Wow. That's insane. It's really cool because just, people can say what they want about Slipknot. And I still say it today. We wouldn't have the scene we have now if
Absolutely.
Slipknot
Yeah.
wasn't there. That's just, I don't even think it's an opinion. It's just what it is. It's
Yeah.
true. Like the influence pretty much every one of us, like
We wouldn't be
in some
talking
ways.
right now.
I don't
Yep.
think,
Simple as that.
honestly, it's like how many of us were introduced even to heavy, and I'm part of that. It was my first heavy, thing that I heard. So people can say what they want, but like I personally, I'd rather be grateful and respect, the legacy behind it is
Yeah,
what I'm.
totally. And
So
I mean, and to take it on a weird tangent, there was another full circle type thing. When I first moved up to Seattle, and I was in school, I had an internship at a studio up
this
here
is what
called
I was
London
gonna ask
Bridge.
about. Yes.
And I one of the first days that I went in there, 3 Inches of Blood was recording their new record, and Joey Jordison was the producer. And unbeknownst to me, I didn't like, I just kind of walked in, and they were like, "Oh, here you go," and it was like, "Oh," and I I I remember very little of it because I was so just like, again, young kid, like thrown in the middle of big things at the time, and just totally shocked. Um, but there was a point where he he wrote down this lunch list. I was the intern at the studio, so I had to go get lunch for everyone. And he wrote down this list of stuff to go buy from this place, and he gives me his debit card and gives me the pin and is like, take money out of my account to pay for lunch. And I'm just holding this like, what's going on right now? And then I go, a few years later, I'm on tour with Slipknot watching Joey Jordison do a spinning drum solo every night, like it's so weird the way things unfold. And that's if we can tie it all in again, that's why Deathcore Memoir meant something to me, because it was seeing the way things cross over and, intersect like that. It's just bizarre sometimes.
First of all, it's an amazing story. Second of all, I do want to say it. Still one of my, if not my favorite drummer of all time. I've seen a lot of videos and stuff, and it's pretty difficult to be a generational drummer type thing, and he was. Like I don't.
Absolutely.
I don't think he can even be compared, if I'm honest, in general. But it's funny because you tell these stories, and to us we're just like, oh my god, but for him it was just like, hey man, you know what I mean? Like we tend to forget that they're just they're people who just
they had to pay for the food somehow. Here's my card. But like it's so fucking wild.
He wasn't thinking of it that way.
And you're in your mind and you're just like, I have to be cool.
I was like, he trusts me with this?
Right, pretty gutsy
really?
From his part, right? Because you could have never showed back up,
Right.
You could have fucking dipped out.
With my anxiety, I would have been so stressed to like lose it, or I would have hold on to that card like so. I would have been like, no one is looking at me, like I'm not losing this. I won't be the guy losing the card.
Yeah, exactly.
That won't be my story.
You get carded. They ask for your ID at the cash register for some reason. You're like, are you Joey? No. Why do you have his card? Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
No, dude, that's fucking insane though. That's
insane. Yeah.
I mean, look, Slipknot was meant to be for you. I mean,
yeah,
right? More than once.
They're very pervasive in my life, and I'm glad for that. I don't know if it's because I seek it out and it happens because I'm trying, but knowing that, like, being able to say that I toured with Slipknot is definitely like a solid mark in my book for a music career.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like I was saying it earlier. I think it's not even an opinion. That's just what it is. Actually, something incredible. And to your credit, by the way, just want to say that there's also, we're talking about all of these great things, but there's also things that you did on your side. Like Alex from Whitechapel had a billion choices. He called you. You know what I mean? So there's also the fact that like, my guess would be that you were fun to be around, like with all these experiences.
I hope so.
Or at the very least, they're all making weird choices. But like honestly, if people call back like that, especially when you're fortunate enough to be in a position like Whitechapel and being able to choose, you know what I mean? Like there's no one forcing them, So if you're being called that much, you know what I mean? I think it says a lot to your credit and the way you work and your mindset. It's always a matter. We do these things often on the podcast, and it comes down to the same thing. People want to tour with people that they love touring with. Like the attitude matters way more than what people think. So there's probably that.
Cool music will only get you so far in terms of people picking you up on a tour or not, I guess.
Well, thanks. No, I really appreciate that. I like I said before, Alex and I were pretty tight at the time, and just from him doing kind of day-to-day manager type stuff for I Declare War, and so he was well aware that we weren't touring at the time, so he knew I was at home.
He was purposefully
so
not giving you
like,
gigs.
Hey, I got someone.
I need this guy on tour.
Yeah. So I think. But I think once I started with them more regularly, we got pretty tight, and yeah, still one of my best friends to this day. I saw him just a few weeks ago when they were here with it was it Brand of Sacrifice and
Yeah. Was it 200 stab
Alluvial.
wounds and
Yeah,
alluvial? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They were at the showbox here and got to hang out with them for a little bit. So
Great.
it's
Crazy to see them
always good to
now,
see them in
right?
town. Oh, they're unbelievable. That
Like
light
this.
setup they've got
Yeah, this setup
is
right now, like the whole everything around the current rollout of their album and how it kind of really gave them like another wave of appreciation from a lot of new
mhm.
people as well. Like it's so cool to see Whitechapel like in 2025, be as big and do the things that they're doing right now and in the way that they're doing them. It's so it's
Yeah,
cool, man.
absolutely.
when
I texted Alex once I saw the new videos and was like, dude, you guys got the look down. Like it is like the visual aspect of the band is on point. They have it so dialed in. And then after seeing the show with that light setup they have, it's just unbelievable. And they've got the mannequins on stage and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they've got
The
this whole
masks and all that,
presence
yeah.
and stuff. Yeah, it's so cool.
when you think about it, the craziest thing is for us, it's hard to picture like that. But to a lot of people, Whitechapel at the moment are what Slipknot was for us
Hmm.
back in the days, and that's insane
Yeah.
to even think about. But that's really what's happening. You look at the comments, you see there's a lot of the newer generation is just like, oh my god, wow, and then these amazing shows. So for us, all the stories we're talking about all those crazy bands, Whitechapel became, I think, one of those, I wouldn't call them gateway or whatever, but like this band that now kids are looking at the same way we were looking at Slipknot. It's mind blowing if you
Totally.
think about it, especially
Oh
for
yeah.
someone like you saw them kind of upcoming in their career, maybe
Hmm.
playing smaller venues at first, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Must be
We opened
insane for
plenty
you
of
to.
shows for them when they were, like I said, we opened lots of shows at Studio 7, just touring shows. And so we opened shows for them before, just before touring with them. We
Hmm.
opened their shows in Seattle. And then so yeah, I don't want to, sound like I'm part of their success or anything, but being around it and being on the sidelines for a lot of mayhem and I'm just looking at some of the tour posters that we did now. Like we did that the 10. It's funny, Hatebreed just did the 20 years of Perseverance
Mm.
tour, but we did the 10 years of Perseverance tour with them in 2012. Um, yeah, we did the Guar tour. That one
Yeah,
still
yeah,
sticks out as one of the
yeah.
big ones for me. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
Do you have any kind of like crazy scenarios or like show stuff happen in terms of like doing the tech thing? Like some weird circumstance in terms of like having to change strings or anything happening on stage that you got to deal with that's like kind of weird or.
for I was very fortunate to not have a lot happen. And there were I think I remember one instance of using the backup guitar for Alex when a string broke, and that was one time. I do also remember um, posting on Instagram that I took a picture of Phil when I was with As I Lay Dying, or I don't know, I posted something on Instagram about how I tied his shoe on stage, like in the middle of a song.
Okay.
But
Okay.
for the most part, it was pretty low key.
Yeah, that's good.
Not too bad.
That's funny as fuck, though. I'll give you that. Was it kind of like, "Hey, tie my shoe, Mister"? Like,
Yeah, he just kind of kicked it at me. And I was like, oh, all right.
it'd be kind of insulting if you didn't know it, right? Like, he's got, yo, tie my shoe, bitch. Like,
Phil was
that's
great.
funny.
He was a lot of fun to be around in As I Lay Dying. All those guys were.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you want to go into that at all.
Well, I mean,
Well,
up to you, man. I mean,
Because I mean, I, they called me kind of late onto joining them for the one tour that I did, and so it was, like I said, kind of hopping into a more unfamiliar environment. Um, but I I thought it was great, and we did I think it was 6 weeks with the Devil Wears Prada, and yeah, it was about 4 weeks after that tour concluded that the thing came out about Tim.
Oh, it was
Um,
that close after. I didn't realize
yeah,
that.
because I
Oh.
had I had gone from that tour directly onto a tour with Whitechapel, where Asking Alexandria was headlining, and
Such a weird matchup. I'm just gonna put it out
Yep.
there. Such a
yeah, so this tour was kind of constructed around a bunch of festival dates on the East
Mm,
Coast, and so all of all these bands were kind of generally kind of on the same stages as these festivals, and so it wasn't really a, a
it's kind of
tour
like a
per
routing
se. It
date
was
type
just like
thing. Yeah.
we're playing off dates together
Yeah.
aside from these festivals.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was Asking Alexandria, Whitechapel, Motionless in White, Chimera, and I Killed the Prom Queen. Like super bizarre tour.
That's
Would have
such a
loved
wild
it.
lineup. Yeah. I mean,
But
Whitechapel is the odd man out, if we're being honest,
yeah,
anyways.
yeah.
But like, I
But we
mean,
were
heaviest band
on
on the bill for sure.
we were in New York, and I remember just doing my work, and our friend Mike, shout out to Mike, he comes walking up to me with his phone, just like, and I'm like, what? And I read the Lamb Goat headline. I'm like, well, okay, so that was all happening while he was sleeping above me, huh? Oh, okay.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that
yeah,
was wild.
I haven't kept in touch with those guys as much because it happened kind of right as we were getting to know each other.
Yeah.
But I still talk to Josh and Phil every once in a while. But
Hmm.
Because that's the unfortunate thing also that people sometimes forget is that there's more than one member, right, in
yeah.
a band, and like there's people who work hard, so it's always kind of just like I called it, like the whole situation really sucks for every party.
Hmm.
It's just like, you know what I mean, like you're a part of it, you're in it, you're just like fuck, you know what I mean, but
Yeah, I
they didn't
mean,
want that, so it's
they
kind
had
of
tours lined up. They had people, expecting
New
yeah.
music and
jobs and
yeah.
like
Oh, right.
so.
Yeah.
And they were not like a
Yeah.
small band, you know what I mean? Like we all grew up. Like I fully remember being in high school listening to it. It's a big freaking band, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's not like
totally.
it's not like a band played like a few times for fun, like underground. It's like it's a huge act. So that
Yeah.
it's this whole thing, you know.
I was
So
learning how to play those songs on guitar, in high school. So
Hmm.
those were very influential to me at the time. And so that was another thing of like stepping on the stage with them for the first time of like, wow, this is that band that I was like learning 578 riffs from,
Yeah.
it's insane. You had a lot of those moments. The way I mean, we're talking about, but you seem to have a lot of those amazing moments. It's pretty cool, though. Like it's like the whole, situation. The moment itself was still cool, right? Like you had
Oh yeah.
all these like the Corey Taylor is my favorite. I think like the like what's happening? Where am I today? You know what I mean? It's really
Yeah.
it's really cool. You're better than me. I think I would have just like kind of I'm frozen. I cannot talk.
Well, that
Right.
actually happened on the Slipknot tour because I had a photo pass for the Boston show, and I took photos of Slipknot, and then after the show, the tour gives every band money to throw a party, and so it's like once you throw one party and it's spread across the tour, and so that night was As I Lay Dying's party, and it was like it was like a frat themed party, and so everyone was wearing like sweaters, and they were doing like beer pong and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so we were hanging out at the party, and Mick Thompson just happened to be there, and he's standing right in front of me. And it was a moment of like total shock of like, I was just taking pictures of you playing my favorite songs in the world. Like, and I was in absolute shock. And I'm standing there with Zach from Whitechapel. And I turned to Zach and I was like, can you get a picture for me? Like, I can't, I literally can't. And so he took this picture with me, and I'm just like, and I feel so dumb now because like my shop that here we go again. We're making another
Mhm.
loop. My shop has sold guitars to Mick before, and
Oh yeah.
they taken stuff to him, and so there's another chance that I might be running into him now because of my
Yeah.
This
job.
time you're gonna be like, don't freeze, don't, not now.
You've trained all this time just for this.
Yeah.
Next
It all
time
leads to this. Yeah.
I'm gonna say hello. You know what I mean? But and another of those moments who's the dude is just like, hey man, you know what I mean? Like he's just like, hey, what's
Yeah,
up? You know, for
no big
them,
deal
it's
for him. The
Just a
best part
dude.
about the picture is that, you know, I was facing the camera at the time, so I didn't know what he was doing. I figured he was just, you know, giving
Oh,
a
right, right.
horns and standing next to me. Um, but when I look back at the picture, he's doing this. He's covering his face, and that's like how
Yeah,
he used
yeah.
to take pictures with people before they were like very, you know,
Public, I
back when they
guess, with
first
it.
came out, it was like no
Yeah.
one knows who they are.
yeah.
They're masked, and I remember searching Slipknot unmasked pictures, you know,
Yeah.
trying to see what they actually looked like. And so
Mhm.
when I got this picture of me with him, but he's obscuring his face, I was like, this is the coolest fucking thing ever. Like
Yep.
this is what I was looking at as a kid, but
Yeah.
that's me, and he's
Mm.
doing it. Like, yeah, so
Comes a full
Slipknot's a huge
circle.
thing in my life.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so cool, and they had so much lore. You know what? You guys
Oh,
remember
yeah.
back then how it works, right? Like nowadays, the information is there and whatever.
Mhm.
Back in the days, it could start with someone saying something that it has never been true, but the
Yeah.
fact that people are talking, it becomes this thing. I remember my stepbrother introduced me to Slipknot, and he's like, "You know why they have masks like that?" I'm like, no, I'm curious because what they say is so disgusting, and that they cannot show themselves. It's like and I was just like, oh my god, wow, okay, you know. So and it's nothing, it's not that, you know. But for years I would repeat that. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
these guys, you know. So
Oh, yeah.
it's just there's a lot
Well,
of lore and rumors
yeah, it's
around.
like I said, I had that VHS, and
Mm.
it was like you know, everything was so mysterious about him, and you know, that's kind of now what like Sleep Token is doing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
it's really cool to see that kind of done again in a different way. Um, you know, I don't know if you guys are into Sleep Token or not.
I am
I
actually.
I just got the new album, and you know, I'm not as into it as I thought I was gonna be. The I think Take Me Back to Eden is probably
Yeah. It's
on
fucking
top for
awesome.
me, but
Yeah.
just the way that they're, you know, I'm kind of seeing them as a more modern Slipknot, of watching them go from, you know, I can't get a ticket to their show at the Showbox in Seattle, and now 2 years later, I can't get a ticket to their show at the Tacoma Dome, you know.
An
It's just
arena. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I think you have a good point, and I love their. I think I love their universe in terms of like, and every time people are surprised because I'm the dude who make MySpace videos, and I'm always talking about deathcore and stuff like that. But I do enjoy other music, and it's not the same part of my. And that's the conversation we have very often. Is just you can appreciate other kinds of music, and people are reviewing them
Mhm.
as if they were trying to be the heaviest thing on the
Yeah,
planet. They
yeah.
never said
That's
that. They
not what they're
never
doing.
positioned themselves, and people are
They're
like,
just
they're
making
not.
music.
Yes, they're just doing their thing, and I think they're great musicians for what it
Mhm.
were for its. And you remember earlier I said like when you evoke emotions, and they're great at doing that.
Oh,
We were talking about
absolutely.
evoking emotion. They're doing that very well.
Mhm.
So, and every single band that does something like that, they're being called, you know, even Slipknot, the same thing back then. People were pissed off. A lot of people were just with the mask and everything. And next thing you know, it works, and they're huge. So
Mhm.
I think you have a point. Like they're going through the steps that
Yeah.
Slipknot maybe went through back in the days is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So,
we're gonna see Token Fest or something.
Yeah, I mean, you know it's gonna happen for sure.
yeah, and maybe it's gonna be you once again, another moment. They're gonna be right there, another full circle thing. Who knows?
Handing him his guitar or something.
Yeah, just gonna walk in and.
I'm curious. We talked about like a few bands here that kind of always come back. Wait, so favorite Slipknot song?
Ooh, it's a tough question.
Yeah, might have to. I mean, people equal shit. Yeah,
A good old classic.
gotta go with that.
Mhm.
That or, I mean, it's hard for me to stray away from the self-titled in Iowa. So I would say that or Surfacing. Those are just so quintessential Slipknot songs.
And still good.
Yeah.
I do want to
they
say
hold up
that
really
it's
well,
still.
yeah.
I just made a video about Slipknot, like about their rise. So I was specifically talking about those early days, and listening back to it, I found myself just. It was in my car as I was driving. Like I was just like, that's too good. I cannot believe that. Sometimes not that we forget, but you listen to stuff and then you go back and you're like, it's still good.
Forgot
like
how good this was. Yeah.
Yeah. Still, like it could be released now. Honestly, it's like
Totally.
that good. Like,
Yeah.
it really
I
holds
think
up.
I kind of there were a few albums that I really didn't get behind, but I know We Are Not Your Kind really blew me away when it came out a few years ago. Um, so I think they've, it's hard to still put them as Slipknot now with all the member changes and,
Yeah.
unfortunate deaths and stuff like that. But I'm always happy to hear what Corey and Jim and Mick are up to at least.
Yeah, but you wish them, it's because especially when you lose. I mean, losing someone like Joey in a band, or Paul, because a lot of people don't know that, but Paul was very much involved in terms of like songwriting and the spirit of the band. So because people are like, oh, he was playing bass. Yeah, no, he was doing way more than that. So they lost a lot. So just the fact that they keep going, right? And we keep. You want them to succeed, even if you don't like it anymore or whatever. Like if you were ever a real fan of a band, you still root for them and you want them to do well, and not to make too much of a comparison, but that's why I commend the dudes in Suicide Silence and keep doing their thing and pushing through and stuff like that. Didn't listen to all whatever the hate or what was happening, and after losing literally the icon of deathcore, and they're still there. I think these people don't get enough credit for doing that. I don't think people realize even how much it's difficult to be like, yeah, let's keep going
after something big like that. Yeah.
Yes. So people are quick to maybe judge or compare, and I think there's no point, by the way, to even compare, but they're quick to judge, but I don't think they think about how difficult it is and how much it takes courage and and love for what you do to keep going. So just another tangent, but I thought it was a good comparison within deathcore.
Did you guys ever? You guys never toured with Suicide Silence? Did you guys?
Yeah, I was about to ask if you.
Yeah, we did a little mini kind of. So we ended up leaving that Welcome to Hell, the Whitechapel Acacia Strain Veil of Maya tour. We ended up leaving that a couple days early because we got a tour with Suicide Silence, and it was only, I think it was only California. It was in California. We did a show in Reno, Nevada, kind of where near, Cam and I are from.
Yeah.
And so it was only like a week or 7-10 days or something like that. But we did do that and got to know him a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
cool.
It's weird. It's just weird. Like I think like I don't know how to put this. Like there's like bands like that where you just assume they would have toured more together.
Yeah,
totally. Right. Like within that kind of scene, there wasn't like a million fucking like bigger deathcore bands like actually like touring a ton and stuff, and so a lot of these bands just kind of ended up always touring together. But
it was seen more like, it's weird. Back in the days, it was more like who's the it was kind of more of a competitive scene, not even within the dudes, but it was just kind of how it was. Like everybody was trying to be the like the heaviest or the biggest or whatever. It was more competitive. We hear that a lot on the show, but like the funny thing about that is everybody would have been winning by touring together, and just like, you know what I mean, like people would
Right.
show up. So it's it's one of those things.
Ticket prices were a lot cheaper back then too.
There's that. You know, hey, how much is it tonight? Oh, it's $7. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the same prices,
Oh, yeah,
or something
we're-
like Vans Warped Tour, you know, and stuff like that. You know, that would all day fest with bands and stuff, and cost almost nothing.
Shows are out here now doing payment plans on fucking tickets, you know, paying
for
4
merch.
weeks for fucking time. Like, Jesus
Sell your
Christ.
house, and then you can. Dude, I back when, you know, because I also love pop punk, and like Blink-182 is like one of my big bands growing up, and when they made their comeback, I'm like, I have to see that. I wanted to be just standing, and I was just like, oh, okay, so each ticket starts at $1,000. Yeah, maybe I'll.
Maybe I'm
Maybe
fine
I'll
with
sit.
sitting
Yeah,
all of a
we'll
sudden.
sit.
Yeah.
I'll sit. I might be far. I might be a little far.
Turns out I just broke my legs. It's all good.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if I can make it, actually. I like them, but you know, $1,000, and it was full. So it different times. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
Oh yeah.
But did you get to meet a little bit? Because I'm guessing you got to meet a little bit of, you know, Suicide Silence too back then when you did that. Like, how was it for you in your perception? Because I'm guessing Suicide Silence was already, by that time, I mean, they were freaking huge and killing it, right?
Yeah, I
When
mean,
you
it was right. It was, I mean, that was that had to be early 2011. So was that the year that Mitch died?
It's in
12,
2012,
yeah.
but I
12?
mean,
Okay.
yeah,
Right before,
it's still peak though, a little bit after No Time to Bleed. They're about to release
Oh,
the
that's
Black
right.
Crown.
Yeah.
So huge, yeah. They're
Yeah,
super huge.
we didn't see a whole lot of them. I mean, we hung out at the shows, but we didn't get to see a whole lot of them just because they were smaller shows in like their kind of areas, so they were a lot of the times off seeing other people, and then we
Okay.
went to
Right, it
Reno
was
and I
local
was
to them,
seeing
yeah.
people that I knew, and so it was a little bit more scattered and not kind of a traditional tour package in a sense that, you know, we were moving place to place every night.
Yeah, it wasn't the 10 dudes in the same van.
Yeah, definitely not.
A bit different, maybe. But it's so sick. I'm trying to imagine it at your place. I mean, you basically toured with, or at least you played or been around to all the classic bands at this point. Like, we're having this conversation, I'm pretty sure he basically saw all those. There's none left.
I'm looking up at my I wish you could I wish I had this in my background, but I have like all my tour passes and stuff, and so I'm just kind of looking up at who we were
You
with.
guys did
and
some stuff with Carnifex, right?
I was just about to say Carnifex.
Yeah.
Yep. Carnifex, Molotov Solution. We did a weird tour with My Children, My Bride, and Within the Ruins.
Love those dudes.
That
Actually, remember.
that Carnifex tour was also with pre-controversy Rings of Saturn. Yeah. So yeah, we definitely got around and made some friends. But yeah, I think just from where I stood, things were, I don't know, we're pretty deep in now, but I could go on and on about the how my time ended. But
I mean, look, we could cap it off with that if you want, but your call. Like, we don't
I
have
think
to
it'd be
either.
interesting, but yeah, we want to be mindful of your time as well. But of course, you know, if you're comfortable and you want to talk, I think these things are really important. So it's really up to you. Is what I'm gonna say basically.
I would say we could save that for another time.
We'll
Totally
have to do
okay.
we'll have to do round two, man.
But
Look,
Because there's a lot more to say as well, because like we didn't even go into the transition in terms of from a vocalist to another. Like there's so much stuff, you know what I mean? Like Misery Cloud, like there's a lot of stuff happening too. So we have a lot of things to talk about. I'm not scared a second. We could invite you probably 7 times, and I think
We'd
still
have
stuff
some-
to talk. So
yeah, I agree actually.
so there it is, and we had a great time. So it would be fun for us even to invite you. So
That would be awesome. No, I've
let's keep
really
it.
enjoyed this. I can't believe it's already been 2 hours already.
It's crazy.
yes, sir. Time
Even
flies.
same. I was
Time
just
is
like,
but a construct when you're doing a podcast.
it's a good sign, though. I mean, to be fair, what you said, I think the stories and you have quite the experience. So it was all super interesting. We love just to talk about that stuff. We don't like, pushing or just like forcing things. It's so interesting that, you just went with it, but it was awesome. I'm speaking for both of us, but
Absolutely, man. I fully
Thank
agree,
you,
man.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. If you're ever needing someone, I'd be more than happy to come back.
Hell yeah,
Oh,
man. Yeah.
definitely. It needs to happen actually, because there's a lot more stuff, very interesting stuff that I want to get into. So yeah,
We,
that we want to get into.
We also have this giveaway thing.
Oh yeah.
True.
So you can maybe give the backstory or whatever on what these are, what we're doing here.
So right behind me is my little toolbox from when I toured, and inside of it are hundreds of picks that when we signed with Artery, we were set up with Dunlop, and we got custom picks made for us. And for years, I was considering doing this with the Deathcore Memoir page, but never really got around to it. For years, I've had this bag of completely unopened picks. They have the I Declare War logo on one side and my signature on the other side. I think it's about 100 picks, and I've wanted to just give them away to someone that's in this community that would, appreciate something like that. So I figured once we were in touch, this would be a cool way to do it.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. You came to me with this idea. You texted me. You're like, I don't know if this is like a weird thing or not. I was like, no, this is sick. This is awesome. It's one of those like it's like kind of random, but like it's because it's random. Like it's such like a niche thing, right? Like you're not gonna get that like anywhere else. Like it's a kind of a one of one type of thing, right? So
yeah, exactly.
That's fucking awesome, man. So yeah, I guess like we'll I'm going to attach to the description of wherever you're watching or listening once it drops on podcasts and YouTubes and stuff. There'll be a link in the description to a Google form where you can just enter your name and either your Instagram handle or your email, just one or the other. And we're gonna let it run for a week, get some names in there, and then we'll do kind of a lottery and pick a winner out of it.
Yeah, that'll be so cool. I don't know if you can see it at all through the bag here, but
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can promise you ahead that we definitely have the community for that. You would be surprised. Yeah, we talk about
Chris right away
merch,
is a high guitar pick collector here. There we go. We got one.
Nice. It would have I would have bet that it's impossible that people are not into it. We have a lot of guitar players, and it's this huge thing, and we love merch and all that stuff. So when I received the message when he's like, "Hey," I was just like, "Dude, I would want that." So I'm guessing actual guitar players would probably like it. So we appreciate it. It's cool, honestly, that you're doing that.
Stoked.
Yeah, man. Hell yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much for taking the time and being so generous with us. This is a really fun time. Like we said, we're gonna have to have you back. So
for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, big shout out to you, man.
This has been a lot of fun.
Hell yeah. We'll keep in touch. Anyways, we'll talk more about the giveaway stuff either way. And Yeah, we'll let you get on with your night, my man.
Right on. Thank you guys so much.
All right, I'll
Of
talk
course,
soon,
man.
man. If you made it to the end of this episode, thank you for watching. And hey, while you're here, hit that subscribe or follow button and a review. If you're watching or listening on a podcast platform, it would mean the world and it helps out more than you know. A big thank you as well to all of our supporters over on Patreon and on Twitch. New episodes every week, links to our Patreon, Discord, and socials in the description. We'll see you soon. We're out.